gentlemen, please welcome.
All right, everyone, welcome to episode number 39 of the MCW Cast. I am Tara, joined here tonight with
Brent Taring. Thank you for having me back. It's been a few weeks, but I am ecstatic to be here on number 39. And also here is our benefactor and the promoter of promoters.
Promoter of MCW.
Mr.
Thanks
Promoter Man.
Dan McDevitt. Thanks for stepping in for Larry Legend this week.
I respect you, Booker Man.
I feel like these last couple of weeks we're having interchangeable parts. But you know,
Not me.
Tara's the one consistent here on the cast.
Yeah. Well, Larry and I are interchangeable.
well,
It's an interesting
I didn't
concept.
say that. I think Dan just said
No,
that.
I
I did not say you were
I know
interchangeable.
Larry's busy doing some hosting with death matches and whatnot, but let's get to all the major podcasts and platforms that we are on here on the MCW podcasts here. I'm going to give it a try. We're on the all Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, Castbox. Did I forget any?
No, I think you hit
No,
all
you
the
pretty much hit
podcasts.
them. We're on pretty much all major podcast platforms now. They can find us.
Don't forget Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
Yep, and if you're watching on those platforms, make sure you share. But if you're listening on the podcast platforms, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast when you listen to it, because that helps the algorithm.
It's just a click, y'all. Just hit subscribe, and it helps us out a great deal. And you'll be able to go back and see the past 38 MCW podcasts where we've had guests like, everybody and every Matt Hardy.
Yeah, Matt Hardy a couple weeks ago. It's kind of that episode's kind of blowing up.
That one's blowing up. We've had Conrad in here. We've had every Maryland legend. Gilberg, Playboy Bob Starr. You know, that'll move the needle. But
And last week we had two guests in here. Last week we had one of our up-and-coming students at the MCW Training Center, Tim Spriggs. He is not just a wrestler in training, but he is also a world accomplished. He is actually the world champion right now in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's the WNO champion. He just had a huge contest a couple weeks ago, so he was here training, and we grabbed him and pulled him in for an impromptu interview.
And what did he win on that?
He won over $30,000.
$30,000.
Yeah, it was the biggest purse in grappling to ever have been awarded, and he won it. And he actually had retired, as we talked about on the podcast. He had retired from the sport so that he could pursue his passion for wrestling, and he is proving. You're going to see him, on a show not too long, I bet. And
I don't know. He wins one or two of them things. He might be buying it.
you're right.
So he does have in mind a couple.
Me and him might need to talk.
A couple of big fights. He's got a lot of eyes on him right now. So if you missed that episode and you're interested in mixed martial arts, by all means, check that out on the formats that we just talked about.
After this, point him out to me, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to slap him in the face.
Okay.
And see how that goes.
All right.
for
Well,
me.
I'm not sure that's going to go. I would not slap him in the face. But he was not our only guest. We also had Chad Clark in here, and he is the promoter for Celeb Fest, which we have got coming up this weekend.
That's right. This weekend
In Millersville. Yeah. Dan, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit
Baltimore
about what
Celeb
they can
Fest
expect?
too, right?
Right?
Yeah, Celeb Fest 2. We partnered up with Chad, and it's Super Saturday. If you're a wrestling fan, this Saturday in Anne Arundel County, even if you're not in Anne Arundel County, it's worth the drive. You can go on to mcwwrestling.com and link to, because the convention's from like 10 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
Over 50 stars
Yeah.
coming in. I can't even think of the name, the list of them. I know like the Steiner brothers, Kurt Angle. It's over 50 stars, and that's going to be during the day. And then in between, we're going to do a live MCW cast.
Right.
And then we're going to do MCW Autumn Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
And that show will start at like 6:30. So you can come to a convention, see a live podcast, come to an MCW event. Mickey James, an MCW OG, will be there. Guest referee in the women's title match. Doc Gallows, formerly known as Luke Gallows from Impact and AEW. He'll be there. He'll be accompanying a couple guys to the ring. Chelsea Green, Tennille Dashwood.
Yeah, the women's
show.
wrestling scene blowing up, and it.
Yeah, and we're doing a lot to put focus back on women's wrestling here in MCW, which is something I've wanted to do. I mean, it definitely does. There's so many talented women out there.
It
Does
was
this mean we're bringing the BBOW back?
I don't know about that. I think we'd be canceled.
I think wrestling has changed quite a bit
I
since
would
then.
love to bring the BBOW back, but I think we would be canceled.
Who's got
For those
Ty
of
Gil-
you that don't know, that was the Beautiful Babes of Wrestling. That was an offshoot of the MCW family here, and I was a part of that as well.
And we had women's wrestling
We did have
mixed
there was
with
wrestling.
peppered in, yeah.
with oil wrestling
Yeah.
and
Where's
It was a thing.
anybody's
some
got,
other things like that.
got Ty Killer
was-
Weed.
All
sunburns?
I know is that I am.
It was an
so-
adult-oriented product.
was.
Oh, yeah.
I am so
BB,
thankful.
BBOW was an adult-oriented
I am so
product.
thankful cell phone cameras did not exist
Oh my
then. I
God.
have
Oh,
to
geez,
be
I know,
honest.
you're right.
Like people will say, "Oh, can I get footage of these matches?" Oh, I have them. They're on VHS, but I have them and you don't. So we're going to keep
Yeah.
it that way.
That
And
was-
I'm fine with that.
That was my first, because I was just starting out, and that was my first regular booking. Because what do you do with a handicapped kid that doesn't know anything that doesn't know how to work, or I was just starting out. So let's put them on these and get some reps in. So I, come home from these just wild adult shows where I'd be in the ring there with the guy with
you work
cerebral
lucky?
palsy.
You worked lucky, right? Lucky the crippled guy.
I wouldn't call it working him. I
Yeah.
beat him up a few times because he didn't move the way I wanted him to because I was so serious about it. But I didn't know what I was doing, and my family would be like, "Oh, you got anything we can watch?" And I'd be like,
It
"Nah."
was so. I mean, to today's standards, the way things are nowadays, it was so inappropriate.
It's,
The things that we
God,
did.
it was fun though. It was
Oh my
great.
It was.
So,
They were fun.
these
They
were not shows you could have taken your kids to.
No.
Like, my kids have grown up in the business after that period ended. They did not. They
Yeah.
were not a part of that. It would have not ended very well at all.
Lots of evening gown matches, oil wrestling, some regular wrestling.
Yeah, there was some.
A little bit.
Sometimes.
It was a little bit
Yeah.
of regular professional wrestling. It was very.
Hey, don't knock the evening gown matches.
Chef
think
Gillespie.
Kim and
God
I
rest
kind of
his soul.
perfected those. We had that down to a science.
Right, and like we always say, at the expense of offending people, like we as independent wrestling, we're built on the foundation that whatever WWE and really at the time that's the major organization is doing, and at that time in the mid to late 90s, that's what women's wrestling was.
Right.
It's obviously evolved much for the better. But that's what it was. On Monday Night Raw was evening gown matches and things like that, and sable stripping in the ring, and that's just kind of how women were presented, for better or for worse, depending on your opinion of it. Some people offended by it. Some, you talk to some people that just weren't. It's just the way that it was presented at the time.
Well, it had to go through that to get
Yeah.
where it is
Yeah.
now,
Yep.
and that's all there is to it.
And I'm a feminist through and through, and I am happy and
Which is why I always
grateful
ask
of my
your
time
opinion on
doing
it,
that.
because
Yeah.
of your feminism.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I say that because you are. She is a feminist, which it was good, but was like when I've asked you, like, you think back, were you offended by that? Were you offended by anything I asked you as a promoter to do, in that era?
Right.
Nah, because I saw what you were asking the other girls to do, and I felt like I got off lucky.
I was
But
too
no,
young. I just thought this was
I was
wrestling.
grateful.
Right.
I was
You
grateful
thought my
for
parents, if my parents knew I was involved in this.
You think that's bad? You should see my Jerry Springer episode.
Yeah.
No, it it was just a different time, and like you said, it was no different than what you saw on TV every week. And I look
Yeah,
back
it was a little
fondly on
different.
these times.
little different.
Okay,
Little different. Little
but
different.
things were just different. So
We kind of took a sharp left turn there,
We
but
did, but
be
you know
out for Celeb Fest, an all day thing. If you're a wrestling fan,
Yeah,
you want to be there.
MCWProWrestling.com. If you're a wrestling fan in the general area, it's definitely it's an all day thing.
and there's something the night before too, right? Isn't that the crab feast?
Yes, that's right. Actually, yeah. This Friday night, crab feast at Jimmy Seafood.
Crab Beast, right? Isn't it called Crab Beast?
Is it a crab beast?
It is, I think so. It's
Yeah.
called Crab Beast. You can have crabs with wrestlers, right?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, if you go to our website, you can find your way to Celeb Fest too. I'm not sure if there's tickets left for the crab
I
beef.
think they only had a couple of them left. The VIP ones, I think,
Right.
where you could eat with the wrestlers. But I think, that they still had regular tickets. But I'm
yeah,
not
definitely
sure.
check it out. It's
But-
going to be a lot of fun this weekend.
And to continue our little trip down memory lane, I want to go back to 2010 and let you know what our Flashback Friday of the week is, which was from Legends of Maryland 2. It was a show we had. I think we only had 2 of them, right?
Yeah. That was
Okay.
We ran out of legends.
grand opening, grand closing.
Legends of Maryland 2. We had Tyler Hilton versus Christian York. So that's our Flashback Friday for the week. So be sure to
Go
check
onto
that.
YouTube to watch that and make sure you subscribe. Hit subscribe.
subscribe,
Yep.
and listen to Christian go, "Oh, God, away," on his entrance.
All right. Now, we need to introduce our guest for this week.
We
did
do.
totally go off on a tangent, but the person that we have in studio with us this week has been around for a number of years with MCW. I believe
Multi-time tag team champion.
multi-time. Yes, very much so. So,
The muscle of Black Wall Street.
Part of the muscle.
Part
Black
of the
Wall Street.
muscle.
right.
Very impressive physical specimen, and really has upped his game over the years. And he is he's a guy that when people see him on the shows, he's one of those people who are in the airport. He's a head turner.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk the one and only Napalm Bomb.
That's right. So stay
Right
with
after
us.
this.
We'll be right back.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
And we are back here on MCW Podcast, MCW Cast number 39, with the one, the only, from Atlanta, Georgia. A man that goes by quite a few names, but around here, we call him Napalm Bomb.
What up?
How's
What's
it
up,
going,
man? How are you doing?
I'm making it,
You
just-
doing all right?
Yeah, I'm back healthy. Just actually getting over this whole COVID-19 situation here. So it
You got COVID, didn't you?
yeah.
Did you get pretty sick?
Man, this thing kicked my behind.
Did it really?
I'm gonna be honest. I was one of those, man, this is not as bad as people say it is, until I got it.
You vote for Trump?
Down to it now.
You got me.
No, so look, man, I was too, like, skeptical, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because you hear so many different things, it's I always say, this is one thing with this whole thing, man, it's like overwhelming amount of information coming at you from so many different directions. You don't
know what to believe.
You don't know what to believe. So it got you pretty good, huh?
Yeah. It felt like somebody whooped my behind for about 6 hours every day. Like, my body hurt. It was so bad. It was so bad. And I didn't get over it until maybe like 2 days before like the whole 2-week isolation. Like,
And did you know, like, did you just get tested? Because wasn't it for a show?
It was for a show, right?
For our show.
It was our
right?
show,
For Bruiser
wasn't it?
Strong.
It was for our show, right? And so
You had to get it because the commission requires
Correct.
it.
So I'm getting tested that day, and
You didn't have any symptoms.
I didn't have any symptoms. I get tested. No sooner as I get tested, then I start having a headache. Right after I get tested.
Really?
I start having a headache right after. What the hell? Whatever. I'm chalking it up. Maybe I'm dehydrated or something like that. I get home. They call me, hey, you want to sit down and talk about your results? I'm like, oh, I got tested before. We ain't never
That's
sat down
right,
and talked
right,
about the
yeah.
results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were like, hey, you tested positive. I'm like,
You are the
oh,
father.
whoa, how's this possible? So I hung up, isolated myself, and I swear, no sooner as they said it, it was like,
It hit you.
it hit me.
Oh.
Now here comes the symptoms. And I'm like, y'all definitely put something in that swab or something. Like, you did something to me. But
What was the worst of the symptoms, if you can,
uh,
without it getting too filthy? Was it the taste? Was it the?
Did you have that? Did you lose taste?
I did. I'm about to put something out there. It's a secret. So I brought my taste and smell back the same day that I lost it. So the actual worst thing I've actually had was, it was like chills.
Yeah.
So it was like chills, hot flashes. I could not regulate my temperature at all. So it was like, I'm super hot, I'm super cold. Now I'm pissed off.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
But taste and smell, lost my taste and smell. Looking up a bunch of different sites, what can bring it back? I had a friend, Caribbean friend, called me and told me, if you like scald an orange, you burn an orange, cut it open, put brown sugar on it, eat it, about 2 hours, everything comes back.
Seriously?
Really?
I lie to you not. I
Like
did
the
it.
whole orange?
A whole orange, you burn it like black. Cut it open, brown sugar on it, eat it. 2 hours later, everything comes back. Legit,
What?
everything came back.
This
Wow.
Seriously?
Yeah,
this
seriously.
man probably has a remedy for everything.
Probably. She does.
She does, or this woman, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get. Does she have anything for spinal cord injuries?
I don't know, man. Like, she probably pieced something together. I'm pretty
That's
sure.
wild. So the fatigue was bad. That's what I've heard from people. Fatigue was bad. Now, I had it back in January 2020.
Oh, you did?
And
have-
yeah, I missed a couple shows. But when I had it back in January 2020,
Yeah.
and I went to my doctor and tested for influenza,
Yeah.
his exact words to me were, I tested negative because I had missed 2 shows. It was Delaware, and I had never missed shows.
Right.
But I was like Dennis and RJ and Dean at the time, because Dean hated going to Delaware. And I was like, dude, I could not get it. I felt like I got run over with a truck.
Yeah.
I just remember feeling so sick and so just exhausted. And I think I must have been in bed for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And my doctor's exact words were, you tested negative for influenza, but there's something really weird going around. He was like, so this is happening to a lot of people. And I was like, it's not the flu. And he was like, it's not influenza, but there's something really weird going around. And then 2 months later, the world
COVID.
falls apart.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And I still have the antibodies 2 years later.
Yeah.
I give blood every 3 months to American Red Cross.
Yeah.
And the first thing it says is, my antibodies are present, COVID antibodies present. So, so I had it, 2 years ago, before it was like
Prevalent,
but I remember just being crushed like I had never been crushed by any type of flu or cold
Yeah.
ever, so.
It was bad.
Yeah.
I've never had the flu or cold, so I don't know how that feels. So when I actually got it, it was like
Just you were wrecked.
Yeah, I was wrecked. I thought I was like Superman.
Well,
I got that.
you've come off of. I know you've had a couple of injuries here and there. It's hard to be in the wrestling industry as long as you have and
Yeah.
not accumulate some sort of bumps, bruises. But there's a difference, obviously, between being hurt and being injured. What were some of your injuries you've accrued? Ones that are lasting and ones that you have overcome and possibly become stronger.
Sheesh. Where do I start? You know what's crazy is that as long as I have been working in the industry, I only had like 2 major injuries like that really set me back, and it was crazy because it happened at like a prevalent time like in my career. So the first injury I had was a torn meniscus. So this was around the time, it's dare to say 2015, something like that. I know I was working a lot with like WWE and going to dark matches and this, that, and the other, and like they flew me down for the trial and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, you made the PWI
All
500 that year
Yeah.
too. Yeah, so you were definitely got a lot of eyes
So-
on you.
I remember being in here training, and I was doing like a knee drop, just some simple.
It's always
Very
something
simple,
dumb,
right?
Like
That's
something
Always
stupid.
how it happens, yeah.
And I came down for a knee drop, and I landed, and my knee went numb, and I said, "Oh, I hope this is not bad." So I roll out, take a little time, try to get back in. I couldn't, so I changed my clothes, go back home. Working out the next day, still couldn't feel my knee. Go to get it checked out. Come to find out, I tore my meniscus. Had to take some time off for that. I think I missed the Shamrock Cup that year just because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Rehabilitate that, come back. Still kind of like working my way with WWE, doing all that good stuff. I was working out, and here's the major one. I ended up compressing my L5 in my back,
Mm-hmm.
so my left leg went completely numb. And me being stupid, my left leg was like numb for like four months or some
Yeah.
shit. Like I was just working out,
Yeah,
wrestling,
walking.
whatever. I didn't think anything of it.
That's we've all done that.
Yep.
Yeah, just being stupid. Come to find out, I go get that checked out. He tells me, "Hey, you need surgery, blah, blah, blah. That's why your leg's numb." Ended up taking about 8 months off then. Like, I honestly contemplated not even coming back. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
Did you get instrumentated or like get any instruments put in or anything like that for the surgery or just fusion or what?
No, just cut into my back. He actually cut that little bit of it was like a disc poking out.
Sure.
It was poking into my sciatic nerve. He just
Yep.
cut that and said it like over the course of some time it actually healed itself up.
That's
so.
good that you got it done before it ruptured.
Yeah.
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 That's
It was fortunate.
yeah.
Was it instant relief or you still feel once in a while?
I felt it a little bit like after the fact.
Sure.
So it was instant relief to where my leg wasn't completely
right,
numb.
right.
But I still felt it in my toes. I can't really feel my feet yet.
Yeah.
After a few months, that's when it actually came back. So,
And coming back, were you a little gun shy for a minute? I know
Oh,
there's always
man.
that.
oof, I didn't feel like I can do anything. Like, maybe I'm a little weak now. I don't know. Like, I definitely lost all my confidence. Like, right after an injury like that, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can like bump. I don't know if I can lift. I don't know if I can do anything until I actually try it.
And that gets in your head like that. Then you worry about like you could get another injury because you're trying to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can't ask a doctor because no doctor is going to say yes, you should return to wrestling. I mean,
Right.
like I broke my neck, same thing, and I kept working through it, and it was on something stupid. It was a sunset flip out of the corner, and I
See?
broke my neck, right, in training no less. And I kept working with it until I had to have surgery,
Mhm.
and then it was like okay, and then you think okay, well I must be done then.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to clear you ever again. But then eventually, like you get that confidence back and you're like, okay, maybe I can do this,
Yeah.
and then you take that first bump and you're like, okay, nothing broke. I'm
Yeah.
okay. And then you
Mhm.
take another one. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I completely understand.
Yeah, it was scary, man. It was really scary.
When did you start? What year did you start in wrestling?
So 2007, right after. Crazy part is, I was in college when I first got introduced. It was a guy that went to Frostburg, and he was wrestling in Rambo's place.
Right. Because that's where you trained out there.
That's where I
Rambo.
started at first. Yeah, went out there with him. And this is my first time being introduced to like anything outside of WWE. It was like, oh, you just got to go straight to WWE, like out of college. Or
Yeah, so
something, right?
you
I
were,
didn't know
but
anything
you
about
were,
it.
but that's a lot of. So like you were a person, you were the fan that just only knew about WWE. Which is
WWE,
probably-
WCW.
Yeah, right.
You know, I didn't know anything about indie wrestling. Like I might have heard a few names, but I didn't know any promotions,
existed,
training
yeah.
schools, none of that. All I knew was WWE, WCW. Okay, WCW doesn't exist anymore. WWE. So that's all I knew. It was like, hey, you go out of college, you try to get in contact with somebody there, and you figure it out.
Yep.
But
That's
I
funny.
knew
I-
nothing.
I had
Dick's-
no idea
yeah.
either, except I knew NWL because I'm from Hagerstown.
Ah.
And Neil Superior was one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And I've talked about it before on the show. But I was like, oh, that's cool that, there's wrestling here. It never occurred to me that there was wrestling everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I really did not get that either. And
I
I
didn't-
had grown up around it.
I didn't know anything about it until I actually got into it, and it was like, oh, well, you got this place here and this place here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, once I actually started, that was when I actually started looking up schools closer to where I lived. I lived in Baltimore at the time, but I would travel all the way up to go to school. Bone Breakers wasn't around.
Yeah, we had been closed up for
Yeah.
a couple years.
Yeah, Bone Breakers wasn't around. And it was another school in Dundalk.
Yeah, was that Tim Burke's
Was
school?
it?
No.
Tim Christians, right?
Tim
There you go.
Christians.
There you go.
EWA.
And the reason I stayed up in NWL was simply because he'd been around longer.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'll stick with this.
Yeah, well, it was good. Dick who called me about you. He was like, "Hey, you gotta see this guy." And we didn't have a school at the time we were running, but yeah, Dick Erikoff, may he rest in peace. He's probably one of my favorite promoters.
Yeah,
He's a good,
yeah.
probably
He's
my
a character.
favorite, one of my absolute favorite promoters. He's
He's a trip. He was a trip. That's
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
He was something else, man. He was funny.
So when did you start to, as you're going along and your training's coming along and you start to get out there and get some reps in, it takes a good year or two to really find your voice, find yourself, find your footing. When did it start to click for you? Was it a moment, a match? Do you remember a specific kind of timeline for this?
Honestly, for me, it didn't click until about 2 years later. Like for some people, like that's a bit long, right? But for me,
Not
it
really
didn't.
though.
Yeah, like, but you think about it. I was catching on very quick. Like any in-ring training, I caught on to that very quick. Like that was nothing to me.
And you had a background in amateur wrestling,
Correct.
right?
Like
Okay.
it was an easy transition. So for me, it was more so, okay, I'm in this area. I'm in this area. I'm in this area. Let me get out of this area. But how do I get out of the area? And I knew nothing. So I just started asking questions. And that was when I started to get a little more like in tune with like Dick and talking to him and kind of picking his brain. And that was when he kind of introduced like, hey, I got this place down here in MCW. I'm like, yeah, I've heard of MCW. Yeah, I'd love to. And that was when he made the introduction.
Yeah.
Like everything's just taken off since then.
Is it I mean, because guys look at you, a lot of guys that it's sight unseen and would go, oh, this is a big boy. He's probably stiff. He's probably a crowbar. You know what I mean? But and I've seen you have matches that are like, you know, good wrestling matches where you go, and then I've seen you have the brawls, the
yeah.
fights,
Fun.
and it's kind of like, you know, it's whatever the people are there and what they want to see.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I guess the last show, you and Solo, was it the 6-man? I think it was the 6-man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to see a fight,
Yeah.
and that's what it was. And it was beautiful.
Was that with
yeah,
with Shane
Resurrection
Taylor Promotions?
Yeah, it was great. It was
Yeah.
it was chaos. It was off the rails, and it was awesome.
Well, that's that perception in wrestling too. Obviously, like in that one, there's some like, all right, these are some
big
this
boys.
is big boys. This is gonna be, this is they want to see.
They don't want to see wrist locks. They
Yeah.
don't want to see right.
Yeah.
They want to
They
see.
want to see you throw these hands.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Well, and that's always been like I've always been a fan of like you and Solo being together and all. Now for me as a promoter, that to me is just like like you don't see that a lot on the indies.
yeah.
With guys where like you have a team where like say you two guys like I'd always say with you like when we'd go to like Waldorf and Hollywood in different areas, I'd always like be out in the crowd like when you guys would come out because you always get that oof. That feeling from the crowd of like you guys walk out like oh these guys it's like you guys just had that look of like you guys walk out and you're like all right it's on. You know what I mean? Like, like it's, and that's.
You got that thing, man. That's my
that look. Yeah, like people come out like, all right, someone's.
These are the wrestlers.
Yeah.
They're the wrestlers. My stepdad came to a few shows, and that was the first thing he goes, two giant black guys. Those are the wrestlers. That's the wrestlers.
Yeah, yeah.
You two also made quite an impression at the birthday party. So when you guys,
Yeah.
those moms, you might have made all the dads mad, but the moms seem to be
Hey.
appreciative.
Hey,
So.
What are you gonna-
not
I
everybody's
know
cup
your
of tea.
tag team partner would soak it all up.
Oh,
so.
he does. I usually have to humble him,
Yeah.
But not everybody's cup of tea. I
That's a
love it,
tall
though.
task, the humble solo.
Yeah, it is. I don't know how I do it. I tend to do it pretty well, though.
Do you find that the tag team, the idea of being in the tag team, is more profitable, more as far as career wise and booking wise, get you more work as opposed to being on a singles road? Or
Are you guys out in Texas or something?
We were, yeah. So
work for
we
Booker?
do, yeah. We work a few promotions down there. We actually just got in touch with Booker, well, his promotion, and supposed to be working with them soon. So
Yeah.
we hoping to get the ball back rolling, the way that we want to actually get it rolling. Honestly, to answer your question,
yeah,
I could go either way.
right.
Like, I have fun doing the tag team thing. Like, at first, it didn't really like resonate with me because
Yeah, I could tell like that. I mean,
Yeah.
we talked about that.
yeah,
I
we
could tell,
talked
like,
about it. It
weren't
was kind of
feeling
like the Harlem Heat situation.
Mhm.
Like,
And I was saying,
Yeah.
like, you guys are freaking money together, man. Look at you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Dude, I can't. Yeah, go on. I'm sorry. I don't want to
So, I
interrupt
mean-
you.
it didn't resonate with me that well. But I decided to like, hey, I'm gonna ride this thing out. Let's see where it goes. And it started to gel, but we couldn't quite get the chemistry together the way that it should have been together.
Which happens, right?
Right.
sometimes.
It happens. And it was one of those situations to where we're trying to get the chemistry together, but here comes injuries. And
Yeah.
here comes, this. And like by the time that I got over the back injury, it was like, I don't really want to do this anymore. And like I presented the idea to you, like, hey,
Yeah.
let me kind of break off and do my own thing.
Yeah, and Solo kind of wanted at that time to do his own thing too.
Yeah.
He had a different character gimmick and everything. So, it kind of
Yeah,
it seemed like both of you were kind of testing the waters outside
Yeah.
of working as a tag team.
there was a period in 2015. I just come back, and I came to a show, and I saw Black Wall Street for the first time, and I said, "Holy ish, Danny, this is a bag of unmarked bills right here. We need to get like a vignette and a promo and send it like now. Like yesterday. And when we worked on one too,
Yeah.
if you remember, but the problem is with four guys, it's like having a band,
Yeah.
and having four guys on the same page is so difficult. But there was a moment in time. I watched everything, saw everything. I go, this is absolutely the most different and coolest thing happening in wrestling right now.
And we were really pushing it out there. And I hate not to like toot our own horn or pat ourselves on the back, but I kind of feel like the Hurt Business and a lot of groups like that kind of stemmed off of
Yeah.
Black Wall Street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not a national company, but we were putting a lot of stuff out there, and everybody that saw it, that I sent it to, loved it. You know,
It all just clicked and made sense.
just of like four black guys, wrestlers that weren't stereotyped, that weren't given goofy black guy gimmicks,
right,
that
they-
were killers.
and they occupied
You know what I mean?
different
And the-
roles
yeah,
in
black guy and Amber and a
Right.
woman of color, with them, and you guys weren't stereotyped and.
no.
and
it's
dressing in the suits
Yeah,
and,
you were in
all of
suits
that.
and
It
you were
was
killers. You guys
great.
had all the
Yeah.
titles in the company. You were dominant.
Mm-hmm.
You know
it
what I
was
mean?
the coolest thing. It
yeah.
was so I remember going this now, like now before they decide to put Shelton and which they
Yeah.
do. You know what I
right.
mean? Like you got to show them that no one else can do that role. And it is what it is, and it'll always go down as definitely one of the most memorable groups and eras here in MCW.
Yeah,
no doubt.
absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the titles that you've won as part of the Black Wall Street faction and your accomplishments here and elsewhere. So stay with us.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, before we went to our break, we were starting to touch on some of your accolades and accomplishments here in MCW.
Yeah.
And you are probably most known for being part of Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street.
Best entrance music ever,
That's
really.
great.
And being tag team champions with Solo.
Yeah.
And not just here in MCW, but you've been tag champ with Solo in multiple promotions, right?
Yeah, quite a few promotions in Pennsylvania, Jersey, Texas. Like
So you guys were belt collectors then.
Like,
Yeah.
who's gonna beat those guys? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I think other promoters see the same thing I saw. You know.
Yeah.
Now, have you been a tag champ with anyone other than Solo?
That's a good question. Have I? Not that I can think of. Like,
None that stand
nothing
out.
that mattered.
Right.
Nothing that
Nothing that mattered. You know.
are you the nice one and Solo's the jerk? Because it's all tag teams.
You know what's crazy,
there's
right?
an a-hole and there's a nice one.
As nice as I may seem, I really don't like people.
Right.
Like
right.
I don't like.
Right.
I
Yeah,
can
I
come
would have
off as-
said that anyway, because like to kill Solo's gimmick, he's like the biggest cuddly bear.
Yeah, the biggest
baby
teddy
face.
bear of all. Right?
I mean, he really is. He really is like a
you meet
big
him.
teddy bear. You look at him,
He
and
makes
people
his
don't.
pies
He's
for
so.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
and-
People look at him, and he's like, God, that guy's such a kid. Like he's the biggest teddy bear baby face.
Yeah.
Like that. There
Napalm's
is. I
kind
think.
of just
Yeah.
Yeah.
quiet in his zone.
The crazy thing is, I'm very approachable, right? So
Right.
everyone would approach me, and I'm very like talkative and this that, and the other. But it's times that I'm like, get out of my
Right.
face.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Solo, go ahead, and I'll step to the back.
Right.
And Solo will talk to him
And
about
he'll go ahead
making
and talk
pies.
to him about everything. And I'm like,
Yes,
bro,
he
it
will.
doesn't matter.
Pies.
Move.
Yeah. Making pies.
You know, I got to say, he came through this past Thanksgiving for Bruiser's family. He still showed up with pies.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, because
What type of pies does he make?
sweet potato.
Sweet potato
potato
pie.
pie.
Don't ever tell him he don't make them pies. Like,
Oh, he gets
he
mad,
gets
yeah.
hot.
And
No,
he,
I asked him
he
'cause-
delivered them himself to Bruiser's
Yeah.
family. He
Yeah,
absolutely
Yeah, no,
did.
he got upset with me because I asked him like, did you really make these pies like RJ's family said? Then he's like, oh, you don't think I make the pies?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
He's getting hot already.
Yeah,
There.
yeah.
What was
Yeah.
your looking back on your career in MCW? What year did you start in MCW?
It was about 2010.
Yeah, I was going to say
2010?
2010. Yeah.
2010
Yeah.
was your first kind of go round. Okay.
yeah, it was
so-
at Gilbert's, right?
It was at Gilberg's. I don't know how I caught you guys' attention, but I recall you guys put me in a match with Ryan McBride in Newey. That was like my first kind of test. And I guess I passed because, like,
Well, I
everything
mean,
went,
your
like, really
look,
smooth,
obviously.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like your look, like this guy looks like a
he looks
a
like
wrestler. You
a pro
passed.
wrestler.
Yeah, you passed the vision test.
yeah.
You know?
But throughout that, I guess 11 years now, even with the injuries, and do you have any favorite matches, moments, like things that stick out in your head? Is man, that was a good night.
Well, one of my favorite matches, I would have to say, it was probably with RJ. I recall having it was like some kind of tag team hardcore match. It was myself, Big Sean Stud against RJ, and I think it was Solo. In fact, like, not gonna lie, I had the most fun that match, and we did like everything. It wasn't nothing like it wasn't a wrestling match. It was like a fight, and it felt so
Yeah.
good. Like
well,
I
RJ,
don't know what it was.
RJ
man.
was a good ring general.
Just
You know, he
damn, it was good.
he knew how to. He was a good ring general. And kind of putting us.
I right this moment I'm visualizing and hearing inside my head the things that he was saying, probably putting this match together.
Like everything was
He's
like
really-
I presented some ideas. It was like, all right, cool, boom, 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 boom. We just call everything else out there, and I was like, oh, all right, and it just flowed. It was so good, man.
Do you prefer that style of kind of just going and brawling, let it'll be what it is out there, or do you some guys like to kind of know what's going on and what, you know what I mean?
Honestly, for me, I like to test myself.
Right.
Like even with like smaller guys who do like to like do all this stuff, it's like, all right, cool. Let me test myself. Let me see if I can get in there and keep up with you.
Styles make fights, right?
I love it. Like I love it. Like I wouldn't classify myself as having like a particular style. I get in the ring with anybody. I don't care.
And chemistry's a weird thing too.
Yeah.
Just like you're talking about solo. Just me. You know, I wrestled for. Like sometimes you just find chemistry with the weirdest people.
Yeah.
Like, and you don't know, and you get out of a match, and you're like, "Oh my god!" Like that was just
That was
Right.
easy.
that was good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you just realize then like, and it's the weirdest thing. Like sometimes you just find chemistry, like you're talking about, where you in solo as a team, but sometimes you're in the ring with people, and you just. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. And sometimes when it's there, it's really good. Where you get out and you're like, man, I want to work with them again. That was
Yeah.
freaking great. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of those situations for sure.
Is there a moment that sticks out in your mind? It's because it's weird, right? When it's happening, and it's out there. It's
Yeah.
you just it's part of the deal. You're just
Yeah.
But looking back on it, where you go, that was a really cool moment. That goes on the highlight reel. That gets sent around. That's
It's quite a few of those type of matches that I've had. Sheesh. Oof.
You're finished with solo. I love putting that on highlight reels. I think, you know.
You know
Yeah.
what's crazy?
I'm always like, man, show that. Like you guys doing that finish to me is always same thing. Anytime you see it at a show, it's something. No matter where we're at, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You guys hit that finish on somebody, and the people are just like, oh, like he's dead. You know?
he did.
Yeah. Like the crazy thing about that finish is York gave that to us. Like Christian York. Like the first night we tagged together, he was asking like, "Hey man, what's your guys' finishes? What are you guys gonna do?" And we're like, I don't know. Like we trying to figure it out. And he took us out to the ring and like walked us through it, and like he put that whole thing together. Like that was his finish that he gave to us.
I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
Christian York gave us that finish.
Yeah, Catfish York, Christian doesn't get enough credit
Oh,
for
he
how
doesn't.
smart he is and how good he can be when he wants to be.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Sky was the limit with him if he wanted it to be,
Yeah.
Plus it takes him 2.5 weeks to get in ridiculous shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that? He's a big fat carpenter on Wednesday, and then the
he's
following
incredible
hard.
Tuesday, he's
It's the most insane
Jeez.
thing. It's the most insane thing. It's like should be a movie. Anytime I can't. I'd never seen anybody like that. You're 100% right. That dude. He could
second-
literally be 50 pounds overweight, gut hanging over his belt, and 2 weeks later he's shredded
he's
with abs.
shredded.
Yeah.
And you're like,
shredded.
dude, what did you do?
Oh man,
Like-
no.
Yeah, you know. What I mean?
It's just
Yeah.
downplays it on.
Yeah, like
Ate a salad.
yeah, I ate a salad
Eating clean.
and did 7 days straight of cardio.
right. Was there anybody you haven't, like, that's on your list that you haven't had the chance to get in the ring with? I mean, I'm sure there's
Oh yeah, that's
the dream, but like I'm talking about people that you have come past where it's a possibility at this juncture in your career.
That is a good question. Damn. One person that, and it's weird, as many times as we've been around each other, I've never actually gotten in the ring with him and actually like locked up with him. Like on a solo situation. I would say like Keikoa, honestly. Like, and it's weird, right?
Yeah.
Because
He's a
like
talented
he's
guy.
not like one of those guys that everybody's like, oh, I just want to wrestle. I do. I always seen like I've always like ran past Keikoa, even in other promotions. It was like, hey, I think I can like kill it with this guy, and I never got an opportunity to get in the ring with him. Like, he was one of those guys.
Well, you
Like
have
he's
you have
probably
ears
number one
here
on my,
that could,
on my list. It's like, hey,
could
One
you
Let
know,
me see if I
day.
can make a call.
maybe
One
you
day.
could make
We gonna
it
lock
different,
in.
you know. You're talking to the right people, so
we're gonna lock in.
Why is that? Is it just the intangible, or is it the his footwork? Is it his?
I don't know what it is. I think it was more so
Whole
like
package.
his look, like the whole package,
The whole
right?
package.
Like when I first met him, it was probably like 2011. It was another promotion that ran in Delaware, New Jersey, ECWA. That was the first time I seen Keikoa, and I seen him wrestle, and I'm like, man, you're pretty good. And I had like a like barn burner for like to open up the show or something like that, and like we talked about it, and ever since then it was like, hey, eventually,
Yeah.
eventually, 10 years later, eventually.
Yeah.
So like he's probably like top of the list. There's a bunch of other guys, but he's probably top of the list because I see him often.
When you were how old were you? Were you real young kid watching wrestling fan, or did you get into it? Like, some people get into it when they're a little older. Were you a
No, I was maybe like 6. My first freaking show that I've actually watched was probably the Razor Ramon Bret Hart WWE title match. That was my first show that I actually recall seeing.
right?
And that was just because like my mother was a huge wrestling fan.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah. So her and my dad, actually, that's kind of like they met. Like they met over like they would go down to the Civic Center.
Mm-hmm.
Civic Center. Watch a bunch of WCW stuff. That's where they met.
No kidding, really?
Yeah. It's crazy because they would have never imagined, hey, your son's gonna be one of them. Like,
Right.
so it was interesting. But yeah, it was about probably like 5 or 6 when I actually seen that match, and I'm like, man, this is cool. And yeah, I fell in love with it ever since then, man.
But when did you know that you wanted to do it yourself? How old were you then?
Probably like 16. Like,
Okay.
this was just me like wrestling, like doing amateur wrestling style, like freestyle wrestling, and Kurt Angle actually, like, to see him make the transition and be so good at it, it was like, oh, I could do the same thing. So like it was probably about 16 years old, 15, 16, and when I was like,
And
hey,
Who were some of your favorites? I guess.
Scott Hall, hands
Yeah.
down. Scott Hall, Bret Hart, Taker. I hated Shawn Michaels. Everybody loved Shawn Michaels. I hated him just
Right.
because everybody else loved him. So I was a Bret guy. I was a Bret Hart guy. I loved the glasses.
Bret had it right, man.
Yeah, Bret,
The moral compass. Bret Hart,
Yeah.
He was popular in my household too.
He's gonna end
my
up
mom
here.
and my sister.
Everybody
big
had the
fans.
glasses. Like you had to have the glasses. Like I was jealous when kids came to school with the glasses and I didn't have it. Like I
Right.
want to beat them up and take it. So definitely like Scott Hall, Bret Hart, Undertaker, Flair, Piper. Weird. I was a Lex Luger fan too.
That is weird.
I
I
was
was
too,
a
though.
Lex Luger
I was a
fan.
Lex Luger fan.
Yeah.
I loved it. I
Was
loved
that
it.
just because he was Sting's boy? Was that by proxy? For
Me, I think, yeah. He had. I don't know. There was something about his charisma. Like, I wanted to see him beat Flair. I really wanted to see him beat Flair, and maybe who knows? Maybe Flair was just that good of a heel, you know.
right,
Yeah.
But I was,
right.
I was livid when Luger couldn't beat him. I was livid, man. It freaking infuriated me.
Yeah.
But Sting beat him, so then it was all.
It all evened out.
It all evened out.
In
You
the
know,
end.
it all evened out.
Now, with when you get into wrestling, you hear the stories of people taking liberties.
Mhm.
Guys having to learn how to a sugar hold or whatever to protect yourself.
Mhm.
You came in with an amateur background, so did you feel a little more confident? Like, okay, if any of these fools try to
Yeah, I mean,
get cute with me, I know how to defend myself.
of course, like I wouldn't say I came in with a chip on my shoulder, but it was more so like if you try me,
Like, yeah, you were ready for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. Like, if
Yeah.
you try me, I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
It's going down wherever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I always kept myself humble. Like, shut my mouth.
But there is somewhat of a bullyish
Oh yeah,
thing in wrestling where yeah, you were, it's like I don't know, you'd always hear like stuff in WWE about the ribbing and stuff like that, but not a lot of that stuff happened to Brock Lesnar.
No.
No,
Brock was a different beast though. Like,
what I'm saying is
I feel-
people pick their spots. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
And probably you coming in like, yeah, you're a big guy and you got this background and you're like, yeah, you can, there's this bullyish aspect of people pick their spots on
I
who,
had
who
a
they
very
try.
real fear of finding poop in my bag because I was told that's what happens if you
Yeah.
make someone mad. So I
You've
literally,
never
like, to
found
the
poop in your
point where
bag?
I had a lock on my bag. Like, I
Yeah.
really thought this was something that happened to, like, everybody. Like, because I think it was just, it must have happened once and then it was talked about forever. And so I had a very real fear that I was going to open up my bag and find this. So I fully expected to encounter this one
It's
day.
happened a lot more than once.
I know it has, but it didn't happen to me, just to throw that out there. It did, and to the best of my knowledge, I've never seen anybody have that happen to. Other things, but not that. So,
no,
Yeah.
I've seen some things happen. Fortunately, I was never on the receiving end of it. Like,
Yeah, people pick their spots better.
Yeah, you don't go up to Napalm Bomb and crap in his bag, and it's not
Yeah.
it's not good. It's not
Yeah.
good policy if you want to make
Yeah.
it home safe.
now, were you always a big guy like this, like in high school too? Were you?
No.
Was this?
The thing is, I had a growth spurt, like, probably around like 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was skinny, like 120. Coming into high school, I was like
Wow.
120.
Wow.
I used to play wide receiver, right? Come back, probably my sophomore year, and I had a growth spurt. Like, got some size to me, shoulders broadening out a little bit, and I didn't play offense anymore. I played defense, and like from that point on, it was like I just packed on muscle after muscle, maybe like 20 pounds every year. It seemed like I was just putting it on, and I noticed I was getting attention from this muscle, and I'm like, oh, I'm not used to this. So it never like dawned on me that I'm like a big guy. Like, to me, I'm still a small guy until somebody, hey, big man, how are you talking? I'm looking around here like, oh, you talking to me? It took a while for that to actually settle in.
But when you go up to WWE or different places, it's Jurassic Park up there.
Oh yeah, it's Jurassic Park. Like, I go up there and I'm like, oh,
you're
I feel right where my mentality is. Yeah.
right, and that's the thing too. It's a real. They got, you talk about these 7'1" guys. It's like, hey, we got 5 more just like you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can go. We'll let you go.
Really?
Yeah.
But that's the competitiveness
Oh yeah.
of the industry right now, and I'd be interested to hear how things went and how you felt about your WWE experience and tryout. Do we have time before the break?
No, we should save that.
We should say
We got like 2 minutes. Yeah.
Get into it. When did you like?
We should save that. Let's get into it.
Just real quick.
I
2 minutes.
got an idea. How about we just take a break
And come
and
back
then we'll
and
come
start
right
with
back. Okay.
Well, all right,
I'll
we'll do
carry
that.
those.
we get into
I'm gonna pout. I'm gonna
let
I want to
you.
talk to him about
We're
his
gonna take a
tryout.
quick break, and then you can bring us back, and we can talk about that.
That'd be
How's
pretty
that?
detailed. I got you.
Okay.
Okay.
fair enough.
See. All right. So stay with us. We're gonna take a really quick break. We'll be right back with more.
Better be quick.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com /MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
Well, before we took that abrupt commercial break, I just wanted to ask Napalm about the process from which you ended up at the WWE Performance Center tryout. You know, they host these tryouts every, I guess, 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And they basically just drill you into the ground pretty much, and then see what you have left. But I wanted to see what your experience was, what the highlights were, what the lowlights were. Was there moments where you're like embarrassed, or man, I could have done that better? Like, give us the real.
I'm not sure about everyone else's process, but it was weird, right? Because everybody has a different story on how they actually made it down. I just so happened to do a bunch of extra work, and every time I did extra work, like Regal was kind of covering it, and he would see me, and he would give me some advice, and I would like touch up. So he noticed that I was coachable, and I think that was the main thing that like really kind of caught his eye. So he was like, "Hey, I want to get you down to Florida.
Very smart.
Check it out, and see how you do amongst, everyone else."
Very smart.
I get down there. I honestly kind of thought it was like, I thought it was bullshit. I'm like, they ain't gonna call me. I didn't get an email about it or any of that until like maybe like a month beforehand. It was like, oh, this is real. So I started like drilling myself, trying to get myself in shape. I felt like I was in decent shape, but like I didn't want to blow up. Like that was my thing. I didn't want him to blow me up. So I started drilling myself crazy. I get down there. Staying at the Radisson with some guy from like Nebraska, right? He was like a college ball player. I'm like, well, how did you get down? And he was like, hey, like just one of the recruits just see me and like just offer me like a shot. And I'm like,
Joe Briscoe probably went and
probably.
I got to do all of this, and you just get seen at a football game.
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
He's like, who's Brett Clark?
Right.
What's your favorite wrestler?
Yeah. Long story short, get there the next day, have us change, drill the hell out of us. And
now,
this
what
was when
year?
DeMont was there.
This is the Bill DeMott
This
era.
is Bill DeMott
and
era,
this is what year?
So, geez, what was that?
2015.
So you have
February 2015.
So you had Bill DeMott, you had Joey Mercury, right?
Joey Mercury was on the road.
He was on the road.
He was on the road.
Okay.
So I had
Smiley.
Bill DeMott there, Robbie
Eagles? Not Rob.
No.
Robbie Brookside.
DeMott, Brookside, Albert
Yeah,
Baldo.
Yeah.
He was there. Smiley was there. And a bunch of the trainees. Charlotte Flair was a trainee down there.
Yeah.
Chad Gable was a trainee. Matter of fact, what was his name? Riddick Moss. He was a trainee down there. So they would help him out, like, to do the drills and the training and all. And it was really intense, but I was ready for it. Like, the only thing that, like, kind of slowed me down and I kind of felt embarrassed is, like, I was cramping really bad, right? So every time you would cramp, like, Bill would just call you up. He'd blow the whistle. Sit down. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So I would just keep going, like, just fight through it.
Right.
But it was really intense, and honestly, like, just want to see your personality. Like, regardless of how intense it is, like, let's see if you love it. Like, let's see how bad you want it. Like, you don't go in there, like, with a straight face. You go in there and you smile. Like, show them something different. They see everybody down there running, training, and straight face. Show them something different. Crack jokes, whatever. Like, do your best to stand out, right? Because you don't know exactly what they're looking for. They just want something.
They don't know what they're looking for.
They don't look what they're looking for.
And then
right.
everybody cuts the promo of, oh, this is my dream. I'm sleeping in the back of my car eating ramen noodles. Okay, man. Right.
So I actually told a story, right? So Pat Brink actually worked with me, like, to like tell a story. He was like, man, what do you got in your background? Like, they want to see how deep you can like go as far as like depth in promos, right? Like, tell a story. Like, don't tell any wrestling.
Yeah,
story.
don't say like I'm gonna beat you 1, 2, 3.
Don't tell none of that.
We kind of worked on it.
Yeah,
too.
we
You came
did.
down here. That's right. God, was freaking 7 or 8 years ago. But
Yeah,
I remember kind of working through it with you.
Yeah, it was interesting because it was like I had to dig like some shoot stories up and was like, hey, all right, I didn't want to do this, so.
But we totally stayed away from like, hey brother, I'm gonna beat you 1, 2, 3. In the
Stay
middle of the ring.
completely away from that. And it was like,
Yeah.
hey, like, tell a shoot story. Tell them your name, where you come from, how you came to this, and it worked. Like, they loved it. Like, I'm be honest, like I started like. I dug so deep, I started to shed tears and all of that.
Yeah.
And they was like, "Oh, we love real emotion." Da, da, da. And it was cool, man. I love the experience.
So,
But like right after that, it was like injury, and it was like,
now, did they call you after that?
Yes.
And you had to tell them.
yes.
So then they think snake bit. Man,
there it is.
there it is.
There
huh?
it is. Yeah. So
That's unfortunate. I mean,
yeah.
do you still have a rapport or stay in contact? Or
Everything's changed up probably too a lot.
Everything's
Like
changed up,
once
yeah.
Bill DeMott, like everything.
Yeah, like the people that you would usually contact, that completely different structure now. So
yeah,
it's like you got to find your way in again. So that's where I'm at.
yeah. If you're talented and you work hard and you don't die and you don't quit, something will happen eventually. It's just you can't control timing.
Not at all. It sucks, man.
Right?
It really does. Like, timing is. I felt like, God damn. Like, if this didn't happen,
Right.
I'd be. Sky's the limit.
Right.
It happens. It's like, all right, let's work back. Like, let's work. And
And-
that's where I'm at now. It's like, hey, look, let's get this together. Let's get on the ground. Let's work. Let's go.
Yeah, and we've had this, year and a half plus pause, basically.
Yeah.
So,
Which
there's
was a whole nother debacle.
Yeah.
in
right.
itself.
Nobody saw that one coming. That's for sure.
I didn't. I thought it was. I'm gonna be honest. I thought it was bullshit. Like, they're just gonna shut it down for about 2 weeks.
But we all, but
Clean up.
and then look, I think no matter what anybody thinks of COVID and I think everyone thought that at that time because it didn't seem real that something like, I mean,
it's a movie.
I'm pushing
Yeah.
50 years old. There's never been anything like that in my lifetime where some type of quote unquote cold or virus just shuts the world down. Like, and you can't go to you know what I mean? So it just didn't seem like what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just didn't
Well-
seem, it seemed like something that only happened
And
in
I
the movie.
think we have this idea that medicine can fix everything. So, like, when you get sick, you just assume, oh, this can be fixed. Like, you hurt your back, it can be fixed. You get this, you go and you get treated. And then to know that there's something that, similar to the likes of like 100 years ago that shut the world down can still do that in this day and age.
And
It's kind of like, wait, really?
You know, even when I look back, I distinctly remember around all the time that stuff happened, and you remember like Italy and all was like a month, 2 months ahead. So like you're seeing on the news of like Italy, the hospitals are overrun, they're shutting people dying. And I remember like looking at the news and being like, oh, that's weird. Well, anyway, I gotta share this.
That's Italy, right? That's Italy. I'm not going there. anytime soon.
Like, well, I'm not going to Italy, so that's
Yeah,
weird.
we-
That's kind of crazy that the hospitals are overrun and people are
Right, so
dying like
Orange
that. but-
Cassidy is booked for the.
Yeah, we're that Hollywood show.
But we got a Hollywood show this weekend, so it's kind of like when I think back, like, why didn't it register that like this was happening? Like it was just like it was like that was happening on a
Somewhere
movie.
else, right?
Yeah.
What was happening in Italy and everything was a movie.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, I'll just turn the movie off. I'm not going to
Yeah,
pay attention. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna pay attention.
And then next
to
thing you know, the Maryland State Athletic
Yeah, then the
Commission
next
telling
thing
you
you
that
know, yeah.
you will not be running a show
Yeah.
at the Hollywood
Yeah,
Volunteer
you
Fire
can't film
Hall.
everything, so.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about something culturally. I'd love to get your opinion on. We were talking earlier. You know, you're talking because it's something I guess I never really paid attention to, but I have the last couple years, and I told like we had Shane Taylor in here, you know, a couple months ago, and like you're talking when you were coming up watching wrestling. Now,
Yeah.
there's a lot of focus on black wrestling.
Yeah.
Nowadays, and when you were a young child, is that something that you noticed? Like that, like because you noticed all the guys you said you were is all white guys.
Yeah.
You know, was it something that you noticed that there wasn't black stars? Did you notice that?
So when I was younger, I did notice it, but it wasn't anything like super prevalent. Like you would see sprinkles, like Harlem Heat. Like they were
Right.
honestly, they were the first black tag team I've seen ever. And I'm like, like they look
Right.
like me,
or
okay,
that were
cool.
taken serious.
Yeah,
right.
they were taken serious, and I'm like, oh, they look like me. I love it. Like so, every time those guys popped on the television, it was like, yeah, I'm in. Like I was locked in with that. So I did notice that when I was younger, though, but it wasn't anything that you really addressed, though. It's like,
right.
all right.
It just kind of now, but now it is. But now you're seeing. I mean, so many. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And it's
I
become
love
a
it.
focus on it. You know, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, it's something I never really paid attention to. Like, but then then when you step and you look back, or like we were talking about, then the characters like a Samba Simba that was very,
Yeah.
you know, like you kind of step back and go, yeah, that was bad. That was like bad.
That was bad. That's cringe bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the wrong side of history bad.
Yeah.
Right. And but you know, it's a weird because it's like they they talk about Bill Watts and him being pretty fast and loose with his language and his feelings on race, but he also booked JYD on top. So he saw things as business and profit, but I'm sure he had his own, he
Of
just
course.
didn't care either way. People weren't people, they were profits to him to an extent, which
that was prevalent back then, though.
Right,
You
right.
gotta expect that, like especially like during that time. It was one of those times where it was few and far in between where you can actually find like a black guy or anyone black in the wrestling industry, let alone
Taken
on top.
serious,
like
right,
taken
on top.
serious.
And it wasn't just wrestling either. If you think
Like, it
back
was
to
everything, yeah.
superheroes, any of your sitcoms, any of your things on there, you'd have the one show like the Cosby Show, or you didn't have, Black Captain America and Black Panther. That's a recent thing. We didn't have that.
Like you think about it, again, it's times have changed, completely changed, and it's like,
All for a positive, right?
oh
You know,
yeah,
absolutely.
like, it's all positive. Like I love it. I love the change. Like I honestly do. Like I felt like it was kind of prehistoric. Like back then, like even like growing up watching it, is like, God damn, like any representation, and even like to the whole like coffee thing, it was like, oh, they actually did it. Oh wow, like I'm be honest, that brought tears to my eyes. I'm like, wow, they actually
and
did it.
And that's what I said with Shane. Race is something. It's and I think because race is addressed so much, where sometimes people are beat over the head with it.
Yeah.
Right. It makes, and this is what I told Shane Taylor. What I appreciate about him is, because of the way he presents things and talks about things. Like there's a lot of stuff he's done that's made me go, okay, you know what? I never, because he's not beating you over your head, but he's saying like, hey, as a young black child, when I was a wrestling fan and I'm looking, but nobody looks like me.
Correct.
And it's like, I never really thought of it like that. Cause I think when addressing stuff like this, it's presentation and the way you bring it to people's attention and not try to beat them over the head. Like, or, oh, you're a bad white guy. You know what I mean? It's like it's the way that it's presented to make the presentation opens people's minds to kind of step back and go, you know what? Okay, I never thought of that perspective, and I never looked at it like that. And when I do step back and look at it like that, I can see how this impacted. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's why I really like how Shane Taylor tries to bring a lot of attention to that,
carries himself
carries himself. There's a lot of stuff he's posted that's made me go, Yeah, you know what? I never looked at it like
The
that.
real power is in being able to make the light bulb go off on that
right.
person without, like you said, beating them over the head
or
being-
making them feel like a horrible person if they never acknowledge that.
Yes,
Yeah,
you want the
you're
light
right.
bulb to go off on their own. Like it's almost like their own.
It's therapy.
Epiphany, right?
It's
right.
therapy.
It's
That's
therapy.
exactly what it is. It's like, I want you to see this point without me bringing it up.
Right.
Yes.
I'm going to talk around this point until you actually understand it. And like, I love the way he presents himself too. Like it wasn't until I actually met him in person and had a conversation with him, like, damn, we got a lot in common. Like, really have a lot in common. Not only just we're both black, is like I can relate to your issues, but we actually got a lot in common. So it was like I became a huge fan like after that, and like I started paying attention to what he started posting and stuff like that more
Right.
after that. And like this guy's like, he's a really cool dude, and he's like pushing the culture forward. So I appreciated him for that, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's great when you look at wrestling now. I mean, Bobby Lashley and the Hurt, all those guys on top,
yeah.
and seeing, I mean, obviously, in Bobby Lashley and Big E feuding for the title, obviously, it's a big change. Yeah.
I didn't think they were going to do that either.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. It's like, wow.
I just didn't want him to take
Whoa.
it off Bobby Lashley. I'm just a huge fan. I wanted him to just.
Dominate.
I've been a fan of his for a long time, and I hated, like, even though when he was with Leo, and obviously Leo's our guy, he's him, but he was still, remember, he's doing the stuff
comical
like
and banging
bending over and like showing it, and I'm like, oh,
You're
God,
a killer, man.
you're a killer, you're a
Yeah.
killer. So when they changed with him and then went in that direction, and once they put the title on him, I was like, man, I just wanted him to keep.
Yeah.
Which I think you can see, like, Vince obviously sees in him. He's, you know what I mean? I'm
he's
a
money.
big Bobby Lashley fan. I'm a really big Bobby Lashley fan.
Yeah, he's money. I enjoyed his run. Like I thought he represented the company well. Like I thought he
Absolutely,
lived up to
yeah.
his potential in every feud that he was in. I
He had
thought
great matches.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it was.
He shocked me. Like I actually didn't think he was gonna like be able to like hold, stand up to like that test of time and like actually
Right.
hold the championship and represent it well. Like you got to look at who did it before. Like Drew, he kind of set the bar high. I'm like, oh, this is a big guy. And
Right.
he
You know
held
what?
it down.
You know what else with Lashley? It's been in WWE especially. For me, it's been a long time. I can't think of the last time that you really had fans clamoring where you could feel that the fans wanted a match
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah.
The way that fans want, like, Lashley and Lesnar.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a money match.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you can feel that the fans want that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Nobody's gonna tell Lesnar about that hairdo.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's, you know what I mean. Like it's they kind of went a different direction. Him losing to Big E, and
Sure.
but they can always, Vince can go right back to it and recreate that.
Oh, yeah.
That, but it's a general interest. You could feel like the fans, they want that match, and that's something you don't get where you know what I mean.
Often.
Often,
Yeah,
you know what I
they're
mean.
frothing
Like
for
you
it.
go back years to like Warrior Hogan and stuff like
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Where your fans are like, man, we want these two guys. Like the fans generally want to see Lesnar and Lashley.
There's there's it with the representation, there's no doubt that that's such a positive influence and the way it should be. But it also means that, hey, like, where do you fit in?
Yeah.
Where do you fit in? Because if there were prior to, 20 years ago, if a roster had four African American or people of color,
Mhm.
Maybe one in tag team and two singles guys, and they had that was kind of like, well, we got that
enough,
covered.
yeah.
We
You
checked
know,
that box,
which,
right?
Which is kind of the way
Right,
it
the
was.
quota, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But now it doesn't seem to be the case. So there's
That
definitely
hole is being
Well,
erased.
I
That whole
think
thought
too
process.
Yeah.
there's been a societal shift. Like, so think back to like the whole drama with Hulk Hogan and his use of language. Okay, so they acted swiftly. I touched a nerve, didn't I?
Yeah, he said about the worst things you can. It was awful.
I know. So WWE,
guy.
rightly so, distanced themselves. So rightly
Right.
so. And not only did they distance themselves, they punished him by, pulling him from the Hall of Fame. Like, basically, it was like he didn't exist anymore. I mean, whatever happened later. But I feel like that was kind of a shift where it was like, you know what? Here are all these people saying it's not okay to say this anymore.
Yeah, but then he's on WrestleMania.
No,
this year.
I know,
but getting
but I'm
booed
saying
heavily, and
but getting
well,
booed. Yeah. And so I feel like this was that time where, there was a societal shift where people said, we aren't going to put up with this.
This is
I
not
don't
okay.
care
Yeah.
if this was the guy who told me to eat my vitamins, growing up as a kid. I don't care. I don't like him saying that. And that's why I think it was a societal shift. Like, I wasn't trying to stir the pot. Like, I
No,
genuinely
good
feel
point.
like that's where I saw... and WWE responded quickly and swiftly, and there was criticism about that, and then, of course, obviously, bring them back for money,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
yeah, but I even think that because I think I think it's probably a decision they may, if they could go back and do it. I'm not sure if they would have brought him
Right.
back because because enough people did say we're not okay with it.
right.
Or
Because
Vince may just want to be embarrassing him on his way out because he's crazy.
that's true too.
You know?
That's
never
true
know.
too. It
You
could be
never
total
know.
like I want him to come back and be booed
And
out of the
just
building.
Kill his ego.
Be-
totally.
yeah, just totally crush his ego, right?
Maybe,
because
yeah.
enough people were like, because that was something. If you listen to the tape, and it's like, and all. What was even worse was his kind of the way he kind of addressed it, like, oh, well, you should be more careful about what you're saying. It's like, well, no, I don't speak like that,
Right.
Right.
and I don't talk like that. So, like, when you're saying stuff like that, that's kind of how you feel.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
It
like,
didn't
how you
just,
felt.
it
Like,
didn't just
it is-
slip out
yeah,
of your mouth.
yeah.
He's
Right.
not apologizing because, hey, this was wrong. He feels like this was wrong to feel this way. He's apologizing because he got caught.
Exactly.
Right.
And he got punished.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
got a slap on the wrist.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
we'll take you
And he
out
was-
here and then we'll put you back. Like,
Right,
I don't
right.
respect that. Like, this is
wasn't a
not
moment
something
of,
like
he wasn't in traffic and
right.
got caught.
You weren't
and
intoxicated or any of that.
Right.
You were just pissed
You were
off.
just,
So this is how
you
you
know.
feel.
Right.
That's how he felt.
Like,
yeah,
it's-
that's
no.
you. That's your personal
There
feelings.
you go. This
Yeah.
is you. This is how you feel. I don't respect that. I
Right.
don't accept
Yeah.
any apology. You can't say anything to me.
Well, and
And-
at this
and-
point,
and-
there's nothing he can
Yeah,
say
there's
about it
nothing
because
you
he
can
didn't he didn't address it appropriately when it happened.
Correct.
So anything he does now just makes it worse, to be
Well,
honest.
even years later, when
Yeah.
he tried to address it and he would talk about it, that's like, man, you've had a couple years to think about it,
Yeah.
and
And this is it.
that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I guess it's kind of like we're like the whole Tessa Blanchard thing,
Right.
that's
Ooh.
kind of popped back up, which is like the
Ooh.
WOW organization. Did you see that? Like they're kind of
I know La Rosa Negra. I know her.
Yeah.
And that was the girl that she supposedly in Japan
right. Like,
got. Yeah, but I don't know what's the new thing with the.
well,
WoW.
the thing is, so with WOW, like they signed Tessa, but it's like gasoline on the fire, and it's just something I saw that was like, man, they're calling her nuclear. Tessa Blanchard, and they brought out
Yeah.
a shirt like nuclear, like, hey, she's nuclear,
So
like
they're leaning into bad heat.
you're
Oh, so they're
leaning into
planning.
bad heat, man.
Ooh.
Like
Wow.
that's to me that and like Tara said, society. There's been such a
Mhm.
push in society, which that's basically like if you're a racist person, you should probably do everything you can to keep it to yourself because it's just not acceptable.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? It's so it has been such a stance of people to stand up and say, which is great. You know what I mean? And culturally to stand up and say, you know what? No, it's just not even remotely acceptable
It's not
for you
it's
to
not-
feel
Right,
this way.
right.
You
And
know, at all.
There's
you know?
so many changes going on, like in society. I mean, like I know I've mentioned it before. Like this is what I teach. I'm a college professor, my day job, and I teach diversity courses and I teach culturally responsive, teaching and all of that. And we are looking and deconstructing so many things that are embedded in our society, like from the language that we use, from, when we write course descriptions, who are we writing them for? Like, and there's a really big, powerful movement going on where we don't just want to have representation. We want like it to be an inclusive society overall. So people are just, they're not taking it anymore, you know,
we want change.
I have students every semester that are like, when I started your class, I didn't believe white privilege was a thing, and now I understand, you know. And it's not blaming one race over another race, but like it's just this, I love what I do because I get this feedback from people where they're feeling the energy too, and people are seeing a world where, you know, everybody has a place.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's wonderful.
And in wrestling, you know, back when you'd see any person of color performing, it was like the two big bad black dudes from Harlem.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
you know,
Right,
like,
right.
yeah.
Or the thugs or the criminals
the
or, you know,
criminals
like
or
we had.
whatever.
Yeah.
Now you got guys that, you know, the box is going
Yeah.
away.
No,
Right.
yeah, the
Yeah.
stereotypes and the tropes that have been used for years and years are, you know, there are many other roles that can be played.
And then it's, you know, but I'm kind of stupid for even saying that, because I've said that before and said, you know, you got New Day coming out with cereal, and Larry goes, yeah, but they're still dancing, and I go,
I'm gonna be honest, that was how I first took it when I first
Yeah.
seen it. I didn't like it. Like I talk to Drolix about it all the time. We would talk
Really?
between us, like, I don't like that. Like
The way
I
that
hate-
they presented
yeah,
New
I
Day,
hate
did you
the way they
think they were
presented
like dancing and
yeah,
like
it was
they
like
were
With the
shucking and jiving,
trombone
like,
and
I
everything,
hate that.
yeah.
Like, get us. Why do we always have to like stay in this box? Get us out of that. And over the course of time, it's like, oh, okay, all right, okay. You're making this your own. You kind of stepping out of that. So,
where
like-
do you see yourself in the wrestling game?
where I see myself is, I actually want to present something different, something a little more diverse, like just stepping out of the box of what most people present us as, thugs, shucking and jiving and all that. Like, that's not who I am at all. Like, I'm more of a professional type. Like, hey,
like a Bobby Lashley.
like legit. Like, this is what I do. I'm a professional engineer. Like, this is what I do. Shoot.
Right.
This is what I do. Like, I want to present that to the world while whooping people's ass. But, you know,
Right.
that's, like, you know, that's what I want to do, you know? So I just wanted to present something a little different, but I do love how they like presented like Lashley and that whole Hurt Business thing. It was ours first, but not going to touch on that too much.
I'm telling you, from the first time I saw that, I'm like, I know that came from Black Wall.
yeah, like it was
You know what
ours
I mean?
first, but, you know,
You got to have that vision, though. You got to
Yeah.
try to see where you
well, you
want
fit
to
in
be
at.
and where you fit in. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, look, you guys are hanging on the Wall of Fame.
Yeah.
Black Wall Street was the cool, man. It was the coolest. It was the coolest.
Mm.
So keep climbing that mountain, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're there.
We ain't going anywhere, and you ain't going anywhere. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we're there. We're there. We officially putting the boots to the ground and we're rolling. We're rolling for sure.
well, very
All
good,
right.
very good. That about does it. On
Yeah, that
episode 39.
was, we covered a lot of
But
ground
that was
here.
a good, right?
That was
a good final segment. Like I wanted to talk about. I think it's important too. I'm glad.
We
we
just
went a
have
little-
a couple more orders of business to talk about. Number one, we want to talk about the show coming up this weekend.
That's right.
Yeah,
Autumn Armageddon, Millersville.
that's right.
With
Alright.
Super Saturday with the
Baltimore Celeb Fest too. You're gonna have Mickey James, special guest referee, the women's championship match. You're also gonna have
Chelsea Green will be in the ring.
and Tennille
Mm.
Dashwood, who formerly was
Emma, that's right.
Now Tennille Dashwood.
And this is her second appearance in MCW. We had her in here for she did a meet and greet like a couple years ago, didn't she?
Tennille? No, I
Tennille?
don't think
Didn't
she.
she?
No, she was going to. No,
Wasn't she going to?
She was going to, but she didn't.
That's right. Okay, that's right.
And you have the brand new MCW heavyweight champ. I mean, a guy that is up, like, just he's gonna run it.
Mecca
here.
versus everybody.
Mecca versus
Brian
everybody.
Johnson.
Yeah,
He's
Brian
the guy.
Johnson.
The guy that's breaking out, not just in MCW, but in wrestling in general.
In
He's a guy-
general, may rub people the wrong way, but that's just fine, man. He's doing the right thing. So hopefully, you know, Napalm
Certainly
will
a
have a chance to toss him
force to
around
be
a
reckoned
little.
with.
Snag that title from him.
Yeah.
So
See,
Who knows?
Yeah, you can get tickets for that show. There's still tickets available. I know
Yep.
ringside first two
couple
rows,
rows are
first
sold
couple
out.
rows are sold out. That happens every show, of course. So if you want to be up close to the action, you got to act quick. I always like to joke that we've got PSL seat holders for our first couple of rows because it is the same faces every show, which we love. So this is our first time in Millersville. So that's over there by Annapolis if you're not familiar, but definitely come check it out. There are different tickets that you can buy because it's a whole weekend of events. We have the Crab Beast on Friday night. That's on the Celeb Fest 2 website. You can find that out. Then they have the Celeb Fest during the day and then our show in the evening. And so you can get tickets. Go to our website, mcwprowrestling.com. You can go to Baltimore Celeb Fest.
Baltimore. Google's Baltimore Celeb
Yeah.
Fest too.
Sorry, I think
It'll
we have a
take you to
link on
Celeb.
our website too,
Yeah.
don't we?
Yeah, we have
Okay.
a link on our website.
And then, of course, you can always go in person to our only authorized ticket outlet in lovely Dundalk, Maryland at Hideaway Collectibles, where you can get not only tickets to MCW shows, but all of your Funko Pops, wrestling collectibles, memorabilia, autographs, all that good stuff. So you can check them out at hideawaycollectibles.com.
just plan on this Saturday, spending your day in Millersville, being
With
there
us.
with us
Yeah.
all day, wrestling, Autumn Armageddon. It's going to be live. It's going to be off the hook. You're going to enjoy it. If you love wrestling, be out there this Saturday in Millersville. Napalm,
Thanks for coming, bud.
Thanks
thanks
you.
for coming, man.
Anytime.
All right. Well, we will see you here next Tuesday on the MCW Cast.